Welcome back, traders. Let's get right into, of course, start swing trading. Let's take a look at the swing trading action and, of course, what took place today in the markets. Let's get right into the action, guys. You guys smash the like and let's get it started here. All right, let's take a look at the market as we are coming down right now on the intraday lows. You guys can see it on the Qs. I'll talk about the Qs a lot coming up. So let's focus first on the SPY. SPY back down to 407. We were just right now up there towards the 412. And as quickly as we get up there to the 410s, now turning around from these levels, we'll see. We'll keep watch, right? What will happen from here, right? Will we get more downside action? Will we get some kind of real turnaround in the tech trade? These are all things that are very reasonable questions to be asking right now. I am taking my shot on actually the turnaround on that tech trade. So let's talk a little bit about my trade today. Let's get right to the action. SPY is coming down here, so got to focus. We might be able to take some more profit on names. Let's get to the action of what happened today. So on Unity, was able to take profits today, completely out of that Unity trade. This was a really good trade. We got this at 30.04, wrote it up there towards a top gain of here towards 9%. Not a bad name. I think it can go higher, but today with the turnaround in the tech trade, didn't want to keep worrying about it. So I took that money and ran with it. Not a bad trade here on Unity. Of course, let's keep going. Let's take a look at some other trades that were going on today. I was in and out of this trade today multiple times, and it's my top position right now. It's actually AMD. So let me take these lines off so you guys can see the action right now, and you guys can see how this is really starting to come back here towards yesterday's levels. That's really what I wanted to see. Would we actually break through yesterday's levels? Because I thought that was very important. You guys can see how we were kind of downtrending, finally rejected the VWAP the third time, and we've really made a nice down move here. I've already taken some profits on this swing trade, so not really too mad about it. I've already taken some profits, so going to take a look to see if I can get it towards a little bit more expansion. We took profits in AMD at 96.09. So you guys can see 96.09 was when we kind of cut through here, and it doesn't look too bad. Just want to continue to kind of work this back down. Average for me on AMD, 96.57. So slightly above here, right? And I'm looking to make sure that we don't get back above that VWAP, because we could just stop myself out. Even on the intraday, it's okay because I've already taken some green. We'll see what happens there on AMD. There was another trade that I was able to take some first profits, but then got stopped out, which was NVIDIA. I kept trying to battle this one and was able to take some profits towards the 275.78. That's when we were kind of breaking here. And then on this recent move, when it came back here, it stopped me out and then really kind of gave that breakdown. So a little frustrated that I don't have any more of NVIDIA or a piece of it. I did have some early on in the day, but got out on the 277.03 when it came back here. So it doesn't look too bad, this NVIDIA trade. Not really mad about it, but hey, like always, we're not going to always get the top profit on the day. Wasn't a bad trade there in NVIDIA. But like always, you guys let me know, what was your top trade of the day? Definitely want to talk about those names and keep taking a look underneath what's going on right now, which is the tech turnaround. Now, the only question is, will we get a turnaround in the Qs today towards the close? Because we very much could. You guys see it here, already bouncing there. That's why I'm keeping a close eye. I know I also have one day trade style position on SQQQ that I'm watching to see if this can keep going. Don't want to see it break 30 right now. If not, going to take some profits. Have this one from 29.68, which was right here, team. So just to kind of put it in perspective, it started making the move. I took my shot at the 29.68, and it's just been climbing its way up slowly but surely here on the SQQQ. Of course, against the Qs, right? Qs can bounce though, so that's why I'm keeping a close eye on it here. If I'm going to take some profit in, of course, SQQQ, but it hasn't been a bad day at all with these trades. Just been battling on some of the tech names, but you can see also there was some really big weakness across the board today on even like oil names. And I was even thinking about maybe taking some shots on some oil names. Look at this Chevron setup. This looks really interesting for me going here into the close. And you know what? Let's take a little shot here. Why not, right? I think that if we can get some downside action here towards the close, we could see this come right back down there towards the 168. The real thing is just going to be about the Qs, right? And the overall market. Do we get a bounce here towards the close? They very much could. So that's why I'm fighting myself on that oil short. But I see this setup here on Chevron. It doesn't look too bad here for it to come right back down through the 169. Oxy is another one that I'm keeping an eye on. That one's below the VWAP, really weak on the day. Slumberjay, really strong yesterday, now getting really weak today and pulling back majority of the gap, right? I mean, this thing had gapped up massively to 52.50, now back down to 50.36. So a lot of these stocks did do a big gap up, but could crack right back down below that gap. So the SQQQ still battling there, just keeping a really close eye on this 30 spot to see if we're going to bounce here. But I'll just go ahead and I'll set an alert. It'll let me know what happens there, and we'll keep an eye on it to see what happens if we go and just take the money and run. That one's kind of more of that day trade style. Definitely want to just take that money and run. But on AMD, I'm definitely going for a little bit of a bigger swing for it to keep coming down and get there towards yesterday's numbers, towards that 95 spot, which would be a really nice gain there for AMD. All right, let's keep going. Let's take a look at some other stocks. Of course, we can take a look underneath the hood to see what is moving on the day. You guys know I like to do this all the time. Let's go looking here. Of course, utility is actually up on the day, the only sector up from the open. So if you're looking at utility names, your names like Duke Energy, those looking good right now. Nextera Energy, that doesn't look too bad right now. It is trying to get up off the VWAP here for another kind of push up higher. And XL Energy is another one that I'll kind of mention that I keep an eye on when I'm thinking about these utility names. And you could also take a look at XLU, right? This is another way of taking a look at it. Doesn't look too bad to maybe risk off to 67 for a little bit of a move, but utilities don't move fast. So you got to be patient whenever you're playing this utility play. And I look for getting them a little bit more on weakness and strength, but to each his own, right? We'll see what happens. Let's keep going. Of course, let me catch up with the chat. What's going on out there, team? SRT8. It's been some time, buddy. How we doing? I like AMD short to 90. I won't be mad at it if it gets down there. Success really running. Yeah, Success was one that I was looking at it, team, and that one just pushed off there, man. And I'm kind of a little upset. I didn't grab that one today earlier. I mean, it really could have taken off. It stopped me out earlier in the day. And you know how it is. Sometimes you're going to get stopped out, but this one actually getting up a little bit higher here. It stopped me out right at the 85 cut down here, and then really quickly recovered right back up there through the 17s, gone up to 1776. And what does this show us? The semiconductor and the technology trade turnaround, right? And technology had been really strong. And now we're getting kind of this double topping area that I'm going to really kind of focus on. When we can come back up through this level, yes, I think technology keeps ripping, but now we could see the pullback really start to happen. And let's take a look at the semiconductor names to kind of take a look at that. And you can see some more topping action on this chart. You can see how we kind of got through these kind of this wick here, but really quickly turned around from these levels. So we'll see what happens here on the semiconductor names, but doesn't look the best right now. And I would be concerned as you're starting to see this turnaround. Will we kind of just continue to see these turn around? Marvell today pulling right back down. NVIDIA pulling down, right? Qualcomm was one that I was looking at today for a target. And this one looks like it's really breaking down here from 125 now down to 122. So take a look at some of these names, right? AMAT was starting to make a nice little move on the daily. This one looks like a potential short for me, especially as you're starting to see some topping action here, right? It tried to get up here towards the 125, couldn't do it multiple times. Now rejecting to get back above the 123s. And now we're back down to 119. Going to look for a little pullback into the 120s, but this one is on my radar for a little bit of a target here. We'll see what happens on these names. And of course, you got your bigger names, right? Your Lamb Research. That one started to do well, started pushing higher, and now quickly has turned around. We'll see what happens to these semiconductor equipments and semiconductor names, right? Also, TSM, if you take a look at that, that's starting to turn around, but I don't mess with TSM. Of course, Taiwan semiconductor concerns with China. All right, catching up with the chat. What's going on out there? Hammer Saw, how we doing? Today was a day for getting stopped out. And it could be like that, right, team? It's not always going to be into the green. We're always going to be battling to see what happens, but not a bad move there, team. We'll see what happens on these names moving forward. And there's going to be days where you do get that chop. So today was definitely chop, chop on the up and down moves. You got to give yourself a little room to get around that. All right, should have done that bond trade today. Which bond are you talking about? Jay Rice, all those WWE nicknames we named in the chat, helping it today with Andre the Giant at the high. We'll see. How is WWE doing? Man, that thing is ripping up to the up move. Not a bad move there. Oof, look at that. That thing got up there to 97, almost 98 today, and continuing higher. And look at this VWAP pullback. That's a nice little pullback there. Comes right back down to VWAP, cuts it for a second there at 94, right back up there to 96. WWE getting the SmackDown. You guys know where you're at. It's John Cena, baby. The wrestling life, World Wrestling Entertainment. Hey, they sold it at the right time, it looks like, because it definitely made the move. And if you think about it overall, take a look at the daily chart on this thing. This thing came down in the pandemic, now making its way all the way back to where it was, pretty much at all-time highs, and selling out on WWE. Can you be mad at them for selling out at this point in time? I mean, I can't be mad at them. They definitely did really good in this trade, and can't blame Vince for selling out. All right, let's keep going. Let's take a look at some other areas. Let's go towards healthcare names. I did get stopped out in Pfizer today. Was taking a shot on this one for pullbacks, but it just went too far. I wanted to stay towards 41.25s. You can see how that really kind of cracked really quickly. So I got out there at the 41.10s, but man, this continued to go down there towards 40.84 today. So healthcare names, they were strong yesterday, not so strong today. Lilly continuing the upside action move, and some of these continuing to push like Johnson & Johnson, but just Pfizer wasn't the same today. Bristol Myers was another one that I was looking at, also pulled back significantly. We'll see what happens on these. All right, let's keep going. Let's take a look at some other stocks there. Of course, industrials also getting really smacked. And let's talk about Deere. Look at this takedown that you see in Deere. Man, this was one that I wish I would have been able to catch today. Look at the downside action there. So what does that tell me? Watch out for CAT. That tells me watch out for Picard. And look how Picard is back down to the 70.84 level. And this one could really keep going down, right? And so can CAT, as they were pretty high up. Now can come right back into the range. So definitely going to be looking to see if these turn around. And you guys know I've been waiting forever to see if GE really kind of breaks. I mean, at least it put a big red candle there. I'll tell you that much. I don't know if GE is done, but I'm going to keep it on my radar. We'll see what happens tomorrow on GE. It's starting to break down, but let's get to some other ones here. Honeywell pulling right back down. What happened to Boeing? Yeah, pull right back down also. So be careful with these industrial trades. It definitely looks like we had a hard pullback today, especially in kind of metal fabrication, rental and leasing tools and accessories. That's not going well there. And a lot of this showing up with weakness in the economy. And Snap-on Tools was one that had been strong, SNA. And you can see how this is starting to turn around. So this actually looks to me like a lot of topping action here back towards the 250s. Couldn't do it, and now starting to fail right back down. This is actually one that I could look to see if it can turn around and actually start getting a little bit more red. We'll see what happens there in Snap-on Tools. That's SNA. Let's keep it moving. All right, Jay Rice, industrials very weak. URI as well as the steels. Yes. Let's keep moving. Those are the industrial trades. Of course, also you got your airlines there. I was looking at, should I go after like American Airlines at the 14s, UAL around the 42s? And no, right now with the way that oil is a little bit higher, I don't like these names. So I got to wait for a little bit more pullback on these. And if we could go down in like the Carnival Cruise Lines back to like 7, or maybe for RCL, getting back down there towards like, let's say 50, 45, 40s, that doesn't look too bad for me. But I think these could go lower. And be careful on like an Airbnb. I was starting to think that this was the turnaround here, but it looks like it just wants to reject this move back for the move back above 125 and could be right back towards 110. So just as quickly as things come up, they can come right back down. We'll see what else is going on. All right, let's keep going. Let's go to a different area. Financial services, really weak today. We talked about day PM. Look how this came right back down. And this does not look good here, because if we really do get concerns in the bank, that's where we got to be worried about what could really happen with this market. Banks were really, really weak today, but at least starting to finish the day a little bit stronger. So a little bit of a bounce back in like Bank of America and JPM here. Goldman Sachs started to bounce back. So not the worst end of the day, definitely bad beginning part of the day. All right, you guys in the chat, don't forget it. Keep throwing up those tickers. I got a lot to go through and a lot to get into. Let's get a little bit more deeper into the markets. Let's take a look at basic materials today. What got hit there was steel for sure. This is the steel outlook overall. Look how this got plunged today. So X, oh man, good thing I wasn't in this one and hung around in that Cleveland Cliff. You guys know we were swing trading Cleveland Cliff yesterday, sold it into the green, and look at that. Big red day now. So was able to save myself on these names. And a quick turnaround in steel. We got to be careful with these names, because when they flush hard. Look at Nucor today. Definitely was getting back up there. Boom, got hit there towards 144. And this could continue to break down. So right now, steel, not where I want to be. Lumber, wood production, not where I want to be. Building materials, I'm seeing the REITs continue to get smacked again today. So not where I want to be. Aluminum, not where I want to be, team. You getting the theme here? It's probably not basic materials. Copper doesn't look too bad there. Nice little pullback. This one doesn't look as bad as the other ones. The other ones are really bearish. I would say that I want to keep an eye on with copper if we can come back up through these levels and really rip. So we'll see what happens when we get that move. Of course, you guys can keep your eyes on like FCX and SCCO, but it would need to get back here like on SCCO back through that 78. I'll keep watch to see what happens in the copper plays. Coal plays, be careful out there. Saw some bad news for BTU the other day. Definitely that affected the stock. And if we look at AMR, we were looking like we were going to get a breakout and now have pulled back. So I'm going to keep AMR on my radar just to keep watch. But if it can't get back there to the 170s, comes back towards the 140s, this chart could be broken. It's been a really strong one, but I want to keep an eye on to see what happens in this name. That's AMR. That's a coal name, right? Let's keep it going. Let's go to consumer cyclical now and take a look at what's getting hit there. Recreational vehicles. I was always laughing when I started seeing this kind of Winnebago get a nice little up move, right? This doesn't seem to me like a stock that I want to be having in the environment that we're in right now. I know that there's a lot more people using kind of and things like that, but I think this is going to come crashing down here. So I'm going to be taking a look at this, maybe off the kind of like the 58 level, but it doesn't look too bad for Winnebago to come right back down to 46. So we'll see what happens on names like Winnebago. And I remember this one, RC Moto, man, it's down to $1.42 and could be disappearing. You got Thor Industries also looking like it wants to come down. It just doesn't look good here in recreational vehicles. And look at Malibu Boats. This is another target that I think I had no idea why it was going up in February. Now it's right back down and could go lower. Same thing for Harley Davidson. Who's getting in their Harley right now? I don't think many people are. and you can see it from the price action. So I would stick out of recreational vehicles. We'll see what else is going on here. Gambling stocks pulling back a little bit, but this doesn't look too bad there. Apparel manufacturing, that's not doing the best. Department stores, Macy's. What's going to go on with these, right? They're starting to get red again, and they just got a little bit of a bounce back. Are these names that I want to be going after or names that I want to be running away from? And I think in department stores, I'm running away from these. But you guys got to keep an eye out. We'll see what happens on names like AEO, if these can come back to the red, Urban, those type of names. I'm going to see if they start to crack. Lulu, I did see an analyst rating out there saying that you got to be careful with Lulu. We'll see what happens. Lulu is still holding in its gap. So we'll see if Lulu ever cracks this gap on the downside back towards the 360s. Will it fill some of this gap? Just keeping it in mind. You did try to get back up there towards the 370s and failed today. You got up there, but you just failed immediately. We'll see if we get back through that 370. Nike overall had a good one. This was one that I was looking at today to see if it was going to have a nice day. Look at the daily chart. Nice little bunch setup inside day yesterday. We pushed higher today. So let's see if this trend can continue. We can look for pullbacks towards kind of 122.75 area. And Nike having a nice little decent up day. We'll see if this can continue with Nike. And let's see if there's anything else there. Crocs, how's the Crocs doing? Haven't taken a look at the Crocs chart in a while. It's up there right towards the resistance and came back and filled that gap. Will it make the move to 130 or come right back down? I don't know. Jay, what do you think? Crocs, yay or nay? I'm catching up. A lot of those names you mentioned, Money Mitch, are smelling recession. Yeah, I feel like a lot of stocks are showing recession today, at least recession concerns, right? I had to dump AMR last week. Yeah, Hammer. I could see that it doesn't want to make a move. Let's go to Amazon. Amazon looked strong today. I talked about that, and I think that's an important stock, right? Amazon breakout. I've talked about how you got up above 100 last week. And then this week, you're going kind of sideways. I liked it today on the pullback very early on, but then it did this down move towards like 102.20s. I started avoiding it, and very quickly, you can see this recovery right now. So there you guys see it back up there towards 104.15s. Amazon does look good. It doesn't look bad, but it can turn around in a hurry. So I'm going to see what happens if we can just continue to climb this wall. And the 200 is right above it. So maybe we can get towards that 200, 107. We have been making our way back on Amazon. And keep an eye on stocks like Melly and Shop, because if those turn around, we could see turnaround happen also in Amazon. But is it a bad looking play? Nah, I like it right now. It's just more about my timing and my entry, right? Where do I get my entry on a name like this? It probably would have had to have been close towards that downturn in the 102. The 1 hour chart looks good too. And that's another thing that I would be looking for is if this kind of ascending triangle can hold here on Amazon. Crocs buy under 115, sell over 125. We'll see, Jay. We'll see what happens. Let's get to some different names here too. It's a little bit of a red day, so it's not as fun as other days. I will say that. But we could take a look at some other names. If you guys got some stocks to talk about, let's start dropping some. And in a few minutes, we'll be joined by a guest. Who's that guest going to be? Find out. Stick around. All right. I sold gold miners too early. It happens, Hammer. Happens all the time. What do you think about puts on TQQQs? TQQQ. Let's take a look. All right. You're talking about the pro shares, of course, and you can kind of go against the market this way. And I mean, if you're doing puts, so you're trying to buy puts, is that what you're trying to do? That's the thing that I would be asking there. I think that if you're trying to do that, then why not just go long the market, right? Or go long overall market. I think we are getting a little bit of a pullback in the market. I think it's okay to get this pullback. It could just be a one-day blimp, or it could be that we just come right back towards 400. But one thing to notice is you see the 9 EMA, it got way extended away from the 9 EMA. And there's not too often that we stay away from the 9 EMA, maybe 1, 2, 3 days, but we were about 4 days off of the 9 EMA. So that puts us back there towards 404. Let's see what happens there on a move like that. So SQQQ still got a piece of this. Talked about how I didn't really want to see it break 30, and look how it's just battling that 30 right now. Let's see if we can actually get this lift here as we get another move down in the Qs. And wouldn't you know it, you can see how we're getting some weakness right now in the Qs. Going to look to see if we keep this trend right here and just get knocked down back towards the 318s. And here you guys see the weakness coming in the Qs right now as we speak. Let's see what happens here. A move back up towards 319. And yeah, you can see some shakeout, but it looks like we're getting a little bit weaker here towards the close, especially when it comes to the Qs. All right, we'll see what happens on that one. Let's check in on AMD. There's AMD, new intraday low, still holding on this one, 96.57 and working. It's getting good now. So can't be mad about this. So we'll see if AMD can continue going down. Of course, I've been talking about how this kind of looked like a little bit of a head and shoulders rejection today. And then today, it trying to go through 98 and failing there. That gives me an ability to kind of risk off of there whenever I'd like. I'm just going to look to see if we can get through 95s. That's really when this chart really starts breaking down. I could take majority of it out there and then look to see if we get continuation move. But I talked about yesterday's range. Would we come back down towards those 95s? Looks like we could get it right now towards the close. We still got about a little bit over 30 minutes here, and we're starting to leak, team, a little bit earlier than I thought we would, but we are leaking a little bit. Let's see what happens in the Qs. I'll keep watch on this kind of 5-minute pattern as we talk to our guests. And like always, you guys can let me know in the chat if you guys see anything going on. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to bring our guest on today. Like always, you guys can smash the like. Let's bring on today none other than Christopher Uall. What's up? How we doing, my friend?
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for having me, dude. I appreciate it. It's if you look at the 1-minute chart going on out there, there's all kinds of candle formations if you guys are trading it, like Mitch and I have been covering on the Benzinga Book Club every weekend. Be sure to sign up.
Yes, definitely. The book club has been fun, especially as of late, because we have been diving deep into our book, Japanese Candlestick Charting Techniques.
Man,
Don't
I've learned
want to
so
miss
much
that.
from this. It's been crazy.
Yeah, and you're the type of guy, and let's be honest, Chris, you're the type of guy that we're like, do I really need to read like candlestick techniques? Like, do I really
honestly,
need that? Right?
I did have a lot of hesitation about it. But I will say, within the first couple of chapters, I was like, wow, okay, this is useful, especially when I can see it on the chart. Like, I immediately went into TrendSpider. I immediately started dropping, the indicators in there, shows what kind of candle it is. And then seeing things play out as they're supposed to, which doesn't always happen. But in general, seeing that movement happen, I was like, wow, I have been mistaken on that. I'm glad I learned this.
Yeah, and it helps us really. I mean, just kind of bring into what I was just referring to. I was talking about the Qs here getting weak, and would we get that down next move? And you can see it here. Qs coming a little bit lower, team. We'll see if we get through that 318 on the downside. But a closing on this would give us what kind of pattern? Let's test Chris right now.
That
if
would
we
be
close,
a very bullish engulfing pattern to me.
bullish or
I'm
bearish?
sorry, bearish engulfing.
Hey,
that's my bad.
no worries. I got you. The bears are
Yeah.
out there. The bears are
That's
out
ugly
there.
right there, man. But now I know better. Now I know what that is, and I'm glad to have it.
Yeah, man. And I think it's important to kind of understand this. It's not going to always be 100% of the time, but it definitely helps us understand the description about what's going on, right? And I think that that's more than sufficient, right? I just want to know the price action. Don't necessarily need to know like exactly every time I see these candles, I'm going to go short. But let's talk a little bit more about what you've been seeing in the market. Today's definitely a tough day. A lot of sectors kind of in the red. But what do you think about the overall market here, Chris? And feel free to kind of share your charts.
Oh, yeah. Let me share my screen here. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this, but do you realize that the market has not moved since February of last year? The market from the low made February 25th. Yeah, there we go. The low made from February 25th to today, we're talking less than 53 basis points. That's the entire move. 53 basis points. So if you've been struggling in a choppy market, just know you're not alone. Everybody is out there. This is an extremely choppy market. What is this? 13 months, 278 trading days, and we've moved less than half a percentage point. I bet that was a big surprise when y'all saw that there. But yeah,
it's tough. It's tough
really
for sure.
tough, right? You got to be very agile in this kind of market, long or short, right? Those rallies, as you've seen, they last for a couple weeks and then they're done. And then the same with the sell-offs there, last for a couple weeks and they're done. But also, you could look at it, right? It's getting tighter in both directions. The volatility could be contracting, as one of my mentors, Mark Minervini, would say. A volatility contraction pattern maybe on the horizon here.
I agree with that.
But the other thing,
the swings are getting smaller, right? And that's what you're meaning by the volatility, right? The swings of the up and down action is not as wide as it used to be. I mean, that first one from 430s down to 350s, that will put a heart attack in you. You know what I mean? Those types of moves, those types of moves, as long as they're starting to get smaller, that's telling us something, right? Mm-hmm. Either that means that we're going towards like another breakout into a different pattern, or it could just mean that this pattern is also getting to tighter consolidation and starting to kind of reverse out of it. And I've been keeping a close eye. I know that we talk a lot about like kind of moving averages, and I could see that, we dipped after recent kind of getting that golden cross. But overall, since then, we got a pullback, but we've stayed out of that bearish trend. At least
absolutely.
I feel.
Now, the way that I define a bearish trend, and I learned this from Steve Burns, is a 10-period moving average. This is exponential. 10-period moving average over the 20-period moving average and price over the 50-period moving average, right? And you can go back. Every time you've got that, that's a bullish trend right there. It's just math, right? It's just time and price move together. But what helps a bullish trend is having bullish breadth. And Mitch, have you seen the breadth lately?
Yeah, I mean,
I got bad breath, but the market's not looking so much better than me.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough out there, but this is where it gets a little difficult because I feel like the market sometimes can carry itself with a couple stocks, right? And this is why I try my best. And I know that a lot of traders focus on the spiders, right? Like the ETFs. But this is why I don't like those spider ETFs so much because they're so heavily weighted in the bigger names, right? And so sometimes you could be referring to the XLU or let's say the XLK and that it's doing really well, but it could be because the top 5 names in the XLK are doing well. Not necessarily meaning that all the stocks are doing well in that area. And so I think it's very important to sometimes look at things on an equally weighted basis so that you can actually see the strength in the sector overall. Of course, you got to focus on higher quality names, but just the overall sector, how's that doing? Yeah. And that's an important outlook to keep watch.
For sure. And I mean, if we go back a month and we look at what happened in the last month, right? Let's say early March to now, that's this rally right here. What's happened in the last month? It's been the big ultra mega cap names that have moved, right? Everybody else is pretty choppy to everything else. But it's really those big names that people want to be familiar with and harken back to the good old 2020 and 2021 bull market. That's where they're putting their money at this week. But I'll tell you,
and that's not bad 1 month performance for some of those bigger names, right?
I mean, these are huge performance, right? Let's see, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Apple, nearly all 10% on those. But then you look at a couple other sectors, right? You got your banking sectors that have got absolute monkey hammered.
Yeah, the health sectors, the farm and heavy construction, like the deer and the cat, you can see it there, really standing out in the red there. Healthcare, some of them in the green, some of them in the red, and I think that a little bit of a mixed signal, especially when it looks at the drug manufacturers like Pfizer in the red there, but now Johnson & Johnson and Lilly starting to turn around. So I think that a lot of what we want to be looking on here too, whenever I look at heat maps, is where could the rotation be going, right? Is it staying in those strong names that you see here? Or are we starting to see a rotation go towards maybe some of the names that look more neutral here? That's why I'm watching more like those healthcare names now to start seeing if there's really going to be a run to those names. Also, we could look at maybe like consumer defensives top right here. So you see how that starts to show a little bit more strength. And it's seasonal. It's kind of seasonality to know that like as you get closer into Q2, a lot of the times we do get more of a push into value names. And a lot of that being that when the new year starts, a lot of like money, especially that tax money, goes to like these growth names, right? You're paying the big shot, right? And then as soon as you're done doing that, then you're like, okay, let's start filling back up with my Coke. Let's start filling back up with my Walmart. Yep. Let's start filling back up with the names that you normally would fill your like kind of portfolio with, right? And so I think that also comes into play here. We saw some window dressing definitely last week where a lot of the tech names got added, probably because, I mean, you see these gains, right? You want these in your portfolio so that you can, put on your first quarter letter to your investors. You're like, yeah we had Apple, we had Microsoft, we had Google, we had Meta, we had Amazon, we had them all. And we were seeing the tech strength come in here, we're positioning ourselves to be ready for the tech move, but also positioning ourselves to be careful with the financials. And I think that's one thing that has come in here with financials is who the hell wants to go buying these names?
Bro, there's nowhere to hide right now, right? If you are an institution, all of these investments you've made over the last 2, 3, 5 years are just underwater at this point. Mitch, I do consulting with credit unions, and man, I'm telling you, like it's pretty brutal out there. The ones that have kept their investment portfolios small, they're actually like murdering the game, making the most money they've ever made right now. The ones that have been chasing yield the last few years and went further out on the yield curve, they're getting smoked. They're losing 15, 20, 30%, maybe more of their investment valuation on their portfolios. And we're not talking, like you or I having a few $1,000s in this or that or the other. They're talking multi-million, multi-tens of $1,000,000 portfolios, maybe even hundreds of millions that are losing 15, 20 to 35% of their value. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, it is pretty rough. Let's take a look at what have you been trading, Chris? Have you been taking any shots? Have you been...
The last couple weeks, I have not had anything on. And the reason being is that while we do have this bullish trend on right now, the way that I measure market breadth is using an indicator that I get on bar chart called MMFI. Now, this indicator, I actually learned this from Mark Minervini. It's a indicator that shows the percent of stocks above their own 50-day moving average. So we talked earlier about how I quantify a trend being its price over 50-day, right? Mitch, 70% of the market constituents of the 500 stocks in the S&P 500 are below their own 50-day moving average. 70%. So that's what I was saying. That market breadth, it's not there. And it's really a lot easier to see that on a number like this, an oscillator, I guess you could say, versus a heat map. But man, when 70% of the stocks still haven't crested their 50-day, there's only so much that can hold up the market. I like to look at it this way, right? This is exactly, and you can check the data on me, this is exactly what happened before the 2022 sell-off. I'm telling you, the 3-4 months leading up to the big sell-off that it hurt everybody in every direction, it looked exactly like this. There was all this bullish trend and no breadth.
It's interesting because I was talking about that this morning. I just feel like, for a while there, you could say that, you had a lot of bearish talk, a lot of bearish investors, but we are getting those investors starting to switch the mentality. You can see the FOMO out there from these tech moves. Yeah. And FOMO rules, man. FOMO rules overall. That's one thing I've learned. And I think that's one thing that we all need to keep in mind when we're kind of going after these moves. And that's why it's very difficult to be an investor and a trader, right, Chris? Because, that's two different ball games. I don't blame people for investing at these levels because the truth is we haven't gone anywhere. You said it since last year.
Yeah.
So investing at these levels, that doesn't really sound too bad. Now, when we're talking about swing trading and day trading, that's where we got to be careful, because there could always be a turn, right? And I think that's the important thing as day traders and swing traders. What we're looking for is to capture volatility. So if there's going to be a move, we just need to kind of catch the move. We don't need to always be right on the direction of that move. And I think that that's the important thing when you're thinking about day trading and swing trading, where most traders just start losing their head. They're trying to call it every day, every day, every day, instead of just playing what we're seeing. That's why I say for right now, I mean, yeah, I can play certain plays to the downside and rent them in the intraday, but I'm always going to keep them to kind of for right now, especially since tech has been so strong. I've been playing more to the kind of these intraday highs where I'm holding towards like renting the name, taking some profit, and then making sure no matter what, that I'm not going to get my head squeezed off because it has been a strong tech move. But that's why I'm also being able to take trades like this. I think you got to be very flexible. You got to be nimble in this market, take gains when you can, and don't expect that you're going to make, 40, 50% on names, because the truth is it's very, very difficult in this market to take your gains because you get swings and then all of a sudden pullbacks.
And that's done. Right.
Yeah.
And today, looking on the SPY on the daily candle, that's a bearish engulfing candle, my friend.
Yeah, man. And it's not what we want to see. Not what we want to see at the top, right? And another thing that I look at often is, let's say for like the SPY, and I'll just throw my chart really quickly for it, is so a lot of times what I'm looking for is, can we come back to VWAP? Because there's so many traders that look at that, right? And you can see, early on we came back to VWAP. That was about like, let's say 1040. But ever since 1040, we can't even get back there. And I think important things to kind of look at like that, then we're using multi-time frame to kind of look after it, right? And tell us, okay, the price action was pretty ugly up there at the 410s, right? Now we know where the bulls struggled to keep this rally going. So I think we just keep focused of that, right? Can we get back through 410s, right? Because that's really kind of like where we struggled. You saw yesterday's resistance right around that 410. Today we did clear that in the pre-market, but right towards the open, we claimed that right back on the downside. So to me, 410 is going to be that level that I'll be watching to see if we can start sustaining a rally above 410 versus what we saw before. When we got to 410 before, we actually popped towards 418. It's not what happened this time at that support. So we'll see what happens with these levels for sure. Is there any area that you're looking at, Chris, for some trades here?
Man, looking at holding all that cash in my wallet, that's what I'm doing.
Holding that cash, man. Holding that cash.
There's no reason to be fighting a trend, especially when the trend doesn't have the market technical breadth underneath it, man. Holding the cash is where it's at. Now, if we had to talk about some sectors, let's talk about some sectors that may be ripe for reversal, right? Let's go look at the tech sectors. So what are we looking at? Like XLK, right? There's a bearish engulfing candle right there. Now I have that in my toolkit. But then again, it's been on a murderously strong trend. And that's why, you've got to be agile. You got to take your profits when you get them, because you got 3 days in a row with a high of right around 150 or so, 151. And now that could be the start of a bearish trend to come against it there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be the start, and I roll back and I always look for prior support that's becoming resistance. It's done it past here. I mean, if you look back in the past, this has been support in the past, and then it became resistance in that kind of August time, that 817. Right on the kisser. And I mean, hey, sometimes, resistance can just as simply come into play. And I think that at this point, what I would be looking for is pullbacks towards those EMAs, like the 9 or the 8 or the 10, something pulling back to those levels. And that's healthy too, right? I mean, stocks don't just go up, right? Eventually we're going to get pullbacks. The key is, do we get buyers on those pullbacks?
Right. And I mean, look at another not so beautiful bullish characteristic here is the decline in breadth. Look at that, or I'm sorry, decline in volume. Yeah. That moving average on the volume has been going straight down almost here. But like Mitch was talking about here, right? These bounces off these moving averages, that's a great way to play where it's low risk, right? If you're wrong, you get out the moving average. If you're right, let it go on top of it as far as it'll go.
Yeah, we are still seeing a little bit of some weakness in the Qs here. Let's see if we make
Yeah.
a new low. I talked about this 318 just a little while ago before Chris came on. Here's 318 and boom, whoosh.
Goodbye.
317. Now we got to look to see. I always look at when we get to these levels, if we get kind of what I call those red to green candles, where the candle starts looking horrible right now on like the 5 or the 15. But of course, the candle needs to close, right? And I think that that's always so important. That's one thing that I learned more and more with the candlestick charting technique, right? Is waiting for those candles to close, because those wicks, man, they can be some dirty tricks. That's for sure.
That's what I heard from somebody I trust a lot. Wicks can be tricks.
They are, man, and they've told us it, right? I don't think we listen. Tricks are for kids, man, not for us, man. We got to be better than that, right?
That's for sure. No.
But yeah, we are still seeing a little bit of some weakness. We'll see what happens in the market. Like always, you guys can keep up with 10-minute stock trader. If you guys want to go ahead and check them out, definitely take a look. Chris teaches a lot of traders how they can go ahead and do this without being in the market all day, right? I mean,
that's right.
You know, there's too many traders that try to be in the market all day, and let's just be honest. We could probably be using our time better somewhere else, right? So try to find ways to better yourself. Get ready in about 10 minutes for the market day. Hey, check out 10minutestockTrading.com. You guys can check out everything that Chris does. He has some great interviews also with some of the best. So if you guys want to take a look at some of his interviews, I would check them out. Chris, always great to have you on, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Mitch. And you know what, everybody? Just stay safe out there, right? You remember, cash is definitely a trade. You don't have to push anything right now.
That's true. That's true. I'm taking shots, though, Chris. We'll see what happens. Have a good one, my friend. Take care.
See ya.
All right, let's take a look at the market here. I am definitely taking some shots. Let's talk a little bit about this. Of course, we have the SQQQs on here. And as we get this move down here, now that we're in the 320s, I'm going to go ahead and take majority of the profits in this trade here off. And then we can leave the last remaining as a little bit of a runner since this is going so well for us here. Let's go ahead. Let's pay ourselves. Boom. Just took out majority of that SQQQ. Not too bad from 29.68. So almost about like 2% on the name there for the SQQQs. Not bad from around here in the 68s up there towards the 322s. We'll see if that can continue making it work. But we're about 348, almost done for the day. AMD. Let's see if this can keep going lower. We're almost to that 95 where I want to pay myself a little bit more and then watch to see if this could keep coming down. So even if we get towards like 95.12s, 95.15s, I don't mind taking a little bit of profit because it has been a decent day there for our AMD trade. And got to pay that money, right? Money, money, money. Nug. What's up with the Nug? Oh, look at that go. Gold. I love gold. You guys know it. I see you guys out there.
I love gold.
Gold for Zippy. I see you out there. Nug definitely taking off. And it was a simple trade. I think that this is one that we're going to look back on and be a little upset. Nice little pullback we got in February in gold, and it's right back up there. So definitely missing out on this GOLD move. NEM was one that I was watching for kind of this rising pattern here through the 49s. Big break today in that. So I can look for pullbacks towards 50 on NEM to see if I can jump in it. But big move there in gold today. Not a bad move. I love gold, baby. Not a bad one there. SQQQs turning around from those levels. The Qs could come back here through the 318. So I'm watching that right now. As that starts to come back, we got to be careful. Apple was so strong, then pulled back today. Is this a turnaround from the topping action or just a blimp in the recent run? And Apple's been pushing, man. I mean, to think about that, we're only about $15 from all-time high on Apple. It's definitely the strongest technology stock in my eyes, even though NVIDIA has been a monster. I mean, Apple never went down as much as NVIDIA did. So overall, you can't fight with Apple. Probably can't fight with Warren Buffett there, but not a bad move there. SQQQ is now starting to pull back here. I'm not feeling the most comfortable with this position here. So we're going to go ahead and just take the gains and run on this one. And that's the SQQQs. I'll keep the AMD trade overnight. Getting out of that one, took it right there at the 30.05s. We're good with SQQQs. We're going to look for AMD to see what happens on that one. It is starting to turn around there. It didn't give me the extra profits, so we'll just see what happens overnight, see if we get the takedown in tech and continued downside action. Let me take a look at Lyft. Lyft with a nice little up move right now. I definitely wouldn't be trading Lyft, but hey, it is getting a nice little push there. Uber overall, maybe that gets a push off of this Lyft move here, but I'm going to avoid Lyft at all costs. It just doesn't look good at all. Anything else you guys see out there, definitely throw up some tickers. If not, I'll start wrapping it up here and get you guys over to Cannabis Insider. That's going to be starting up in just about 8 minutes here. Any other tickers being thrown up in the chat? Now's your chance, team. If not, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. All right, it's been one of those days where you're starting to see a turnaround right towards the close. Look at the Qs now starting to push a little bit higher here. So we got to be careful out there. We'll see what happens on some of these other names. Tesla coming back here, 190, 192s. We'll see if we get back into the 192 handle, as Tesla was really weak all day. Taking a look at Google also, that was strong, and now starting to make a little move back here. We'll see what happens on Google and Amazon. That was also strong. Let's take a look at that one. That one looks really strong compared to the other ones. So if there's one that had a really decent day that I'd keep an eye on, I definitely keep an eye on Amazon, as it looks like it's trying to get back here towards the 200-day moving average. We'll see what happens there on Amazon. Lyft has juicy calls. Oh, man, I can't handle that one, though. It just doesn't seem like I hate buying stories that just are kind of trashy. But, hey, Lyft, it could keep going up. Does have that nice little push that it just did. Maybe looking for some pullbacks towards like in the 930 areas, 925s. At least it's getting some nice lift. VLO. All right. Well, VLO, look at that turnaround today. Ooh, 129.90s. 126.90s. Did you jump in? Did you buy, Shannon, or you shorted it? Let me know. Still have Ion Q. Ooh, Ion Q. We'll see what happens on Ion Q. That one had a decent day for sure. This is one of those AI stocks that actually did have a decent day. Some of these other ones got destroyed. I know GFAI or whatever, that definitely got hit hard. Ooh, back down to 13. But this was just $20. $20, team. I know AI also got hit. Oof, look at that turnaround. This is why you got to be careful in these names, right? Because as quickly as they go up, they can come down in an elevator move. And this is exactly what you call an elevator move, where you got the elevator up and the elevator right back down. So be careful out there, team. Ooh, jumped in on Valero. I see you out there, Shannon. I wish you the best. Doesn't look too bad. Definitely got a nice little pullback on the day. One thing that I would say about Valero is just kind of weekly trend, right? If you can hold kind of the weekly trend here, kind of hold 125s, don't get in the 125s, and you're back up there to 140s, it'll be looking good. It was right up there looking for the breakout. Now hard rejection there on Valero on the day. So we'll see what happens there in oil. Was this just a trap to the upside? Find out, team, like always. All right, AMD is bouncing back here, but I'm going to stick around with the last remaining shares. We'll see what happens there on AMD. WTI overall, how did that look for their crude? Let me take a look there. Over into the 80s, needs to come back into the 70s for even to think about the short on oil, and really needs to come actually below 70 to see that really crack. That's going to do it for me. Seeing more and more stocks and alerts starting to come in here. So that means stocks are moving. SQQQ pulling back here. We'll find out what happens in AMD tomorrow. You guys can find out, of course, on live trading tomorrow. Don't miss that. That's at 9 a.m. Eastern. And smash the like on your way out. Up next, you guys got Cannabis Insider. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot of action for you. And don't miss our cap Cannabis Capital Conference, and of course, Fontainebleau, Miami. There's still tickets available. So if you guys want to check out, of course, our cannabis conference, check it out, team. Cannabis Insider starting up in just a minute or two. Stick around, team. You don't got to go anywhere for some more action.